As the Miami Dolphins' first preseason game is just under a week away this upcoming Friday against the Atlanta Falcons, I wanted to do my final 53-man roster projection before the preseason because the next time I'm going to do a 53-man roster projection on the channel coming from me and my brain personally is going to be after the final preseason game in late August. So I wanted to do one last time before we get underway in the 3 preseason games. And the first thing that we have to talk about is the quarterback room. I'm actually going to go with 2 guys being kept here, and Tua Tagovailoa and Skylar Thompson. I'm making the bold choice of having Skylar Thompson be the backup quarterback over Mike White. White has had an up and down start to Dolphins Training Camp, and that's going to be something that I've got my eye on for the 3 preseason games for the Fins. The backup quarterback job. Who knows how much Tua is actually going to play in those 3 games? It's going to mostly be the Mike White show, Skylar Thompson show, and Gavin Hardison. And I think Hardison could be kept on the practice squad, and with the new rules, you are allowed unlimited 50 or like emergency elevations for Sundays. So I think Mike White could be a cap casualty as he has a $3.1 million cap hit this year. And I'm going to go with Skylar Thompson being the backup quarterback for Tua Tagovailoa. Which I wanted to say this too, by the way. We said they're going to be live, or we have a game out this upcoming Friday. We're going to be live for that, by the way. Dolphins Falcons, August 9th. Ironically, it's my birthday, so it's going to be a fun time hanging out, watching some Dolphins preseason football, having some drinks, having fun. So make sure you subscribe to the channel and join us for our first watch party of the 24-25 season that gets kicked off against Atlanta in the preseason. The RB projection, pretty simple. Raheem Mostert, Achane, Jaylen Wright, and then I'm going to go with Chris Brooks, the second-year man out of BYU. I think that Jeff Wilson's days are numbered. I'm sorry, Jeff. I like you. I appreciate what you've done, but there just isn't really a role for you on this team, and that was pretty clear after the Dolphins traded a future third-round pick to get a fourth-round pick that they then used on the running back Jaylen Wright. So to me, it makes a ton of sense that Chris Brooks, because of his impact potentially on special teams as well as his youth compared to Jeff Wilson, is ultimately the 4th running back kept. That's where I'm going with it. Wide receiver projection here. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Odell Beckham Jr., Malik Washington, Braxton Berrios. And then I'm going to go Eric Ezukanma as that 6th guy. In the past, I have projected to have River Craycraft as the final wide receiver for this team, but I'm now switching that to Ezukanma. It's going to be Easy E versus Craycraft for that final spot due to the IR placement of Taj Washington, and I think Eric Ezukanma is going to end up winning the job. Moving over to the tight end / fullbacks here. Obviously, Alec Ingold is going to be on the team. He's maybe one of the more locks of the squad. And then I have 3 tight ends. I've got Jonnu Smith, Jody Fortson Jr., and Julian Hill. You might be seeing a name not on the list that you thought would be there in Durham Smythe. But with Jody Fortson Jr. having such a good OTAs, such a good mandatory minicamp, I feel as if he's taking that into training camp and going to put together another solid month of August where he balls out in the 3 preseason games and ultimately earns himself a 53-man roster spot. Now, I could see Durham Smythe making it over Julian Hill, but Jonnu being your all-around tight end, Jody Fortson Jr. being your red zone threat because he's a big body and an athlete, and then you've got Julian Hill who fits better as that physical blocking tight end that you can put in jumbo situations in the red zone as well. I think those 3 really complement each other really, really well, and that is kind of what I predict. And if you've been watching the channel, you know Jody Fortson Jr. is one of my guys that I love and want to see succeed and think is going to succeed, which is why I have him on this roster, which also takes me to my first question to you guys of today's show. I have Jody Fortson Jr. as my guy, but let me know your guy down below. If you had to pound your fist on the table for someone to make this team or ball out this year, let me know who it would be. All right, let's go over to the offensive line now, where I have 9 players making it. Teron Armstead, Isaiah Wynn, Aaron Brewer, Robert Jones, Austin Jackson, Kendall Lamb, Patrick Paul, Jack Driscoll, and then the last one being Liam Eichenberg. I have Lester Cotton slightly missing this team. I think Driscoll has a real chance of being the starting right guard for this squad. Aaron Brewer's your starting center. You drafted Patrick Paul in the second round to learn under Armstead and Austin Jackson. Kendall Lamb's your veteran swing tackle. I think there's predisposed roles here. It's just all about who gets that starting right guard spot. Don't want to beat a dead horse here, but we know it's Jones, Cotton, Driscoll, Eichenberg, all fighting for that role. I think one of them is going to end up being cut. I think Lester Cotton is that name. I think Driscoll might end up being your starter. Robert Jones, your backup right guard, and then Eichenberg is your backup center / backup interior offensive lineman, where he could play left guard if Isaiah Wynn misses times, or if he needs to play right guard as well, he can do that too. Make sure you are subscribed because you're going to get daily coverage of Miami Dolphins training camp. And we also said earlier, guess what we're doing for the game against the Falcons to open up preseason? Oh, yeah, we're going to be live. So make sure you hit sub button for that. Don't miss out. Daily coverage, live shows, watch parties. We do it all here. So come join us here at Dolphins Today. Let's get to the defensive line projection now. I got 5 D linemen making this squad. This is an edge rusher, so just keep it cool over there. These are the 5 names on the defensive line. Obviously, Zach Sealer and Calais Campbell headline this group. Those two are going to be really fun to watch in tandem, as Sealer was really good with Christian Wilkins. Campbell kind of is that replacement for Wilkins after he left for the Raiders. And the 3 bench / backup guys I got, give me Deshaun Hand, Benito Jones, and Jonathan Harris. I like Benito Jones, sneaky. I think he's going to be good. Deshaun Hand's been really productive in camp early on, getting after the quarterback. And I think Jonathan Harris sneaks onto this roster. I think Neville Gallimore, his ship has kind of sailed. I think he ends up getting cut. Tier Tart, too, as well, has not been off to a hot start either. So a couple of those names, Gallimore and Tart, end up seeing you goodbye. But Deshaun Hand, Benito Jones, and Jonathan Harris are your depth on the defensive line. Which takes us to the edge room because, well, after Shaq Barrett retired, they signed Emmanuel Ogbah, so he is now your third edge. Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb are obviously your top 2 guys. Ogbah's been really, really good for the Dolphins at the beginning of training camp, had sacks on the first 2 days of camp, and he just continued to showcase why he was an excellent choice by Chris Grier to be the Shaq Barrett replacement. You drafted Chop Robinson and Mo Kamara in the NFL draft. Those 2 guys are on there. And Cameron Good, who opened up on the PUP list for this team, I think ultimately makes this roster as that 6th edge. And I think Miami is definitely going to carry 6 edges. Hell, I could even make the case that they keep 7 because of the uncertainty to Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb, who are returning from injuries. They also started on the PUP list. A lot of injuries to this group in position room to start off training camp. But when things are all said and done and we head into the regular season, I think these are the 6 names that you might be seeing on that Dolphins depth chart. But what you think on Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips? Are they going to be ready for week 1 against the Jaguars? We asked this question quite a bit, but you let me know your updated answer right now. Type Y for yes or type N for no. Move over to the linebacker projection. David Long Jr., who opened up on the PUP list, but he's going to be good to go for week 1. Jordan Brooks and Anthony Walker Jr. started off pretty well, working in tandem with Long out of the Dolphins defense and team drills to start off training camp. The free agents from Seattle, from Cleveland, I think are going to work really well alongside David Long Jr. Brooks is your thumping, run-stopping back. Anthony Walker Jr. is your pass coverage linebacker, one of the best in the game, too. And I think Duke Riley ends up getting that 4th spot. We've talked in the past about Channing Tindall versus Duke Riley, who's going to end up getting that 4th linebacker spot. I'll go with Duke Riley. I don't think I'm changing off that stance. Unfortunately, the ship might have sailed on the former 3rd-round pick out of Georgia, Channing Tindall. Let's move over to the secondary as we close out today's video. Jalen Ramsey, Kendall Fuller, Kader Kohou, Cam Smith, Nick Needham, and Saran Neal are my 6 corners that end up making this roster. I think Kader Kohou is in for a breakout season, or I guess bounce back maybe is the right word because he kind of broke out as a UDFA in 2022. Cam Smith is obviously on the squad after being a 2nd-round pick in 2023. Needham continues his role on this roster. And then free agent Saran Neal, who is really good in the special teams game, but is also someone who could potentially be a nickel corner if needed, if Kohou goes down or struggles. So I think keeping flexibility and versatility for this roster is important due to the veteran presence of this team. And Saran Neal is someone who ultimately ends up making the roster. Move over to the safety projection where I got 4 names. And we've often talked about some UDFAs or rookies that could end up pushing for a roster spot, whether it be Mark Perry, Storm Duck, Patrick McMorris as well. But I think they go more veteran heavy and try to have a couple of those guys on the practice squad for this upcoming season. Your top 2 starters at safety, Javon Hall and Jordan Poyer. And then your next 2, Marcus May, who you signed late in free agency. And I think Elijah Campbell ultimately ends up making this team. Campbell got off to a pretty stout start, had an interception in the first couple of days of training camp, although it was not off of Tua Tagovailoa due to his hold-in. And I think Campbell is someone who isn't going to see a lot of playing time, but good special teams guy. Potentially sees the field if a couple injuries to Poyer or May or Holland end up happening. Hopefully not, though, but I think they carry 4 safeties, and Campbell is that 4th guy. All right, special teams projection, not really much to talk about here. Jake Bailey, Jason Sanders, and Blake Ferguson, those 3 are locked in stone. We talk about people that are absolute locks on this roster. There's a lot of people that are guaranteed a spot, but these 3 are absolutely guaranteed unless an injury occurs. So nothing really to move on from here, but hopefully they have a really good season for the Miami Dolphins. Special teams, sneaky, very important, folks. All right, make sure you are subscribed to the channel because when roster cutdown is officially here in late August, we will break down the entire Dolphins 53-man roster in depth going into week 1. So make sure you subscribe for that. Make sure you join us for our first watch party of the year against the Falcons on Friday, August 9th. See you tomorrow, as always, folks, with another video. Go Fins.